Cause we be on a tough love. Oh, we feeling so high. Don't be afraid of falling, cause you know we gon' fly.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're watching for the first time, my name is Kensani and I bring you faith, education, wisdom and lifestyle content. A lot of the educational and wisdom content that I get to share with you guys stems from books that I am currently reading. And January 2023, I am reading a book called The Hard Good by Lisa Whittle. I have shared my first reflection on it with about sharing for other people when they get our things, when they get the things that we want, right? And today we're looking at chapter 5. I'm reflecting on chapter 5, which speaks about finding joy in the waiting. This is about patience and stuff, and I'm particularly terrible when it comes to waiting because I like things to go my way. I want them to happen when I want them to be. I like to be in control of the situation, and I think most of us like that. We like certainty. We like to see things happen the way that we want them to, when we want them to. So that's what we're looking at today. And she looks a lot in depth at relationships, and I think a lot of us, you know, there's so much pressure when it comes to relationships and the waiting in relationships and trusting God when it comes to that aspect. But just a disclaimer, I am going to read a lot from her work because I do not want to be vulnerable yet on this platform about my relationships and all of that. And this is particularly because I do not feel like I have been great at them, and I've been very faithful to God about it. I haven't worked a very perfect journey when it comes to that. So I do not want to mislead or speak about things that would potentially mislead you. But anyway, I still believe that there is things that you can learn from what I'm going to share today. So the first thing I'm going to do is read on at page 106, where she speaks about how she felt in the waiting. And she says that my mother got married at the wee age of 20. So by the time I was 22, I dramatically deduced I must be doomed to always having a mattress with a one-sided indent. Tell me about it. At 29, my dear, my bed one-sided indent. The other part of it, ne, it's like books and my laptop and like just a mess basically. Since childhood, I had dreamed of being a wife and mother. Hello, hi. But when I got to the age it could become possible, God wasn't moving as quickly as I'd hoped. I'm telling you, bro, like this is some hectic stuff. Like this is hectic. I sat in seminary full of lots of finding your future spouse here talk, single, thinking all manner of assumptive, gloomy thoughts. What if 22 turned into 62 and my dream never came true? Excuse me. It was silly, but emotional baggage can make you think that way. The year before, my life had taken a drastic turn. After a hard breakup with a fiance, I'd been left with a monogrammed cake cutter and a dress. Now I was starting over in grad school in a different state where I knew no one, and time appeared to be ticking away. I was practically turning ancient. My dear, tell us in our late 20s, turning practically ancient. Guys, there's no such thing. We're still pretty, we still love Jesus, we're still doing the mosty, you know. Okay, and then she says that struggling with my self-esteem, I was sure it was impossible to get proposed to twice, since it turned out that the one man who did ask me to marry him didn't really want me. As my impatience with God grew, understand, baby girl, I began to take things into my own hands. Hello, how many Kensanis, how many Lisas? Okay, so here she shares 3 things she personally experienced about being impatient or during the waiting season. And the first one is that we compromise what we truly want. like I said, I am going to avoid having to share my experiences, but I know this. There were moments, there were multiple moments where I felt like I should settle. And some of the offers really look good financially, I was like, okay, this looks really good, but um I think about the long term. Who is this person in the long term? How's their spirituality in the long term? And when you I remember one of the guys was like, you're not gonna find love if you're gonna have this insurmountable or requirements or whatever, so people come with a lot of things, and impatience added to limited vision makes anything seem reasonable. At the time, like, there was a time where I thought it was reasonable to be with somebody that, like, I literally was in the gutter, guys, like, yo. um we don't want to think of rushing as a lack of confidence or even lack of belief in God, but we have to consider it. I definitely agree. I think it's a lack of belief, but for me, the most part, I'm scared of disappointment, so that's why I like getting things. That's why I like to think that I know good better than God. Trying to do things at my own speed, because I feel like if I disappoint myself, it's not going to be as hurtful as if somebody else disappoints me. So I sort of take matters into my own hands, although that is clearly a sign of distrust. So we expect God to disappoint us, or we expect him to not come through. So yeah, that is basically it. And I think a lot of it has to do with, again, recentering, going back to focusing on Christ, focusing on that. Okay, the second one is that we retreat to what we know. And I'm gonna read to 108. Guys, I know you expect this. You guys have done this, right? Retreating to what you know. Okay, so she says that an ex-boyfriend, one I loved deeply, re-entered my life while I was in seminary. The waiting is difficult. Wanting so much to find the man I would spend my life with, I reverted to what I was familiar with, even though I knew it was wrong. It was thrilling to have another go at our relationship. He showered me with attention and said all the right things about how this time it would be different. My heart wanted so desperately to believe it was true and experience love being rekindled that I couldn't recall any of the old reasons we broke up. Oh, never mind that. He had not been good for me back then, and our compatibility level had not changed. The only difference was I'd grown tired of waiting on God. So I'm just gonna skip through and read certain quotations I've highlighted. She says that we long for the comfort of what we knew because at least we had something. So at least we had something. This something wasn't particularly the best. It wasn't, what do we term it now? It was the bare minimum. But because we are tired of waiting, we go back. What was once not what we wanted for good reason has been accepted in an impatience haze. And then she says, it is easy to go back to what we know, but it is better for us when we wait on God instead. Yeah, so I don't know if I should even add more comments onto that. It's a pretty hectic one, going back to exes. Yeah, the third one is that we take matters into our own hands. Hello, dating sites. Hello, any good looking guy I'm gonna DM on the Instagram. Hello, every single guy who prays is the one when you see him at church, right? You start to hear things that are not there, and you start to take matters into your own hands. And we know that when we take matters into our own hands, it ends up terribly. So here she shares that when we lose faith in God, we do lots of plotting. Tell me about it. Even when it comes to work. So let me not just relegate this to relationships. When it comes to work, God doesn't come through, so you're like, no, I'm gonna settle for something else that God didn't say is it for you. Even friendships, it happens that you just like, oh God, this friendship is not working out, so I'm gonna recreate a friendship. Comes to children, for people who are looking for kids, and you aren't having any, you're like, I'm just gonna adopt, I'm gonna get a surrogate, and it becomes you start to plot, you start to think about the possibilities that can come through. So she says that if he is no longer trustworthy to manage your life, it becomes a wild scramble to make up for his lack. When God makes us wait, it's because he wants to save us from something, give us something better, or form us in as something we need. The biggest lesson for me throughout is that there's an idea that we know better than God, and because of waiting and the impatience, and you start to feel like you're losing, and you're turning 30 next year, and there's just so many things. We are impatient because waiting feels like losing. Someone else wins while we lose. We miss out while others get ahead. They get ahead in careers, they get ahead in marriage, they get ahead in so many things. We are told no while someone else hears a yes. So this brings about, I think, a lot of fear, and then we make decisions from a point of fear. But we know that perfect love casts out fear. So if we're really trusting God and resting in his love and believing his word, there wouldn't be this rush and this fear of wanting to get to this job or the next thing. And there's so many things that require waiting. It's like I said, it's not just relationships, it's not just work. There's so many things that require waiting. It could be starting a YouTube channel where God is just like, no, you have to wait, I need to prune you. It could be starting a foundation where God is like, no, you got to serve, you got to be led first. You don't need the mic yet, or you still need to be hidden. There's still so much work that needs to happen. So waiting is very difficult, but we make decisions from fear because we feel like we're missing out and running out of time, and YOLO, life is too short. And another thing is comparison, which frustrates, which drives frustration in our lack. Man, comparison is a big thing, and it's so easy to compare these days. You go into social media, even people you don't have an interest in, guys, friends from primary school, not even friends, like people you went to school with, you see them getting married, and it's a matter of, yo, minage, again, you compare where you are in your career. When we studied different things completely, we're serving a different purpose. So this one is a particularly difficult topic for me, and I'm not sure I hope you can get it from even my approach. It's very different as compared to the other chapter about cheering for others. I felt like that one was speaking to me it was taking certain parts of me and convicting me, but I don't think and I received it, but I feel like this one is a bit hard for me to receive. It's a bit hard for me to receive because, gosh, it's too close to home. It's too close to home. So what are the solutions? In what way can we keep so busy serving Jesus that we don't have time to miss that thing that we're waiting on? And I think, yeah, it just brings a highlight about sometimes I don't want us to think that we should be too busy, to forget we're waiting. I think sometimes we get too busy so that we can avoid the pain of waiting. But at the same time, I think there's a reason why we are in the waiting, and it's for us to try and figure out what it is that we need to do during that period. Are you meant to be if you meant to start a foundation about children and education and whatever, are you meant to be serving a children's ministry at church? Are you meant to be volunteering at a shelter? Are you meant to be serving under an NPO and just managing there? Are you meant to be donating, giving? Are you meant to be spending your time giving? Are you meant to be spending your time running around through tutoring programs? Are you meant to be online learning something? So it's those kind of things. What do you need to do during that particular time of the waiting? When it comes to relationships, like I said, I don't know, is it time to be in prayer, to be in worship, to be figuring yourself out, to be living your best life? And yeah, to be fit, to get to know yourself. What ticks me? Where is God calling me? What kind of a relationship am I looking for? What are the things I need to be praying for into this marriage that I want? If you're waiting for children, what is God trying to speak to you about that season? Are you meant to be taking in children from your cousin, or how is God? And I think these things will come to you generally. You will hear them. Like I said, your body speaks to you, your heart speaks to you about the things that speak to you. So another, just to finalize, it's that another thing that happens is that we worry too early, and we decide that we cannot find joy until something happens. So you cannot be happy because you don't have a partner, you cannot be happy because you don't have the job. And I think because we link a lot of our things to tangible things, we forget small things, like simple things like joy and whatever. But I'm just gonna read from page 128 in conclusion. For my friend who is waiting on, I'm gonna paraphrase, on finding joy, take that road trip. If you can afford it, go ahead and take that road trip. Eat the good food. If you're worried about your body, break free from body shame. There's a book I'm also reading called Breaking Free from Body Shame by Jess Connolly. You can also read that, because some of it, we deprive ourselves from food, from enjoying food, because hey, and I'm not saying be greedy or whatever, but enjoy food, eat, you know. Check stuff off your bucket list. Have 100 list of dreams. You want to bungee jump, you want to scuba dive, you can't even swim, my dear, add it onto that list. You want to hike in Cape Town, you want to run a marathon in the Northern Cape. Like, just add all of the stuff that you want onto your bucket list and start ticking them off. And they don't have to be big. It can be a small bikini a red bikini that you want to buy. It could be a lipstick that you've always wanted. It could be risky hair, you know, that you wouldn't do on a normal course, you know. Launch new ideas. If you have new ideas, write them down. Use those talents and strengths, because you are talented, you have strengths. Your talent might not be dancing or singing or whatever, but you have talents and strengths. You have skills that we probably do not know. Use those talents and strengths. Find a place where those talents and strengths can be, what's the word? Like, they could be pruned, or they could come out. They could be made to come out. People can encourage you so that they come out, or serve under someone, like, and see how it goes. Show up for friends, show up for family. Do not wait to leave. If every other thing in this life went away and you never got a single thing you are waiting for right now, sheesh. If you never got that husband, if you never got that car, if you never got that job, if you never, let's say I never got to go to the courts that I went to work to, if you never got to travel overseas, you'd still travel South Africa, for example. But the main thing is that God would still be enough. Even if you never had all of those things, God would still be enough. So yeah, again, it's longer than I expected, but I hope it also brings you a bit of peace. And more than anything, go back to scripture. Go back to scripture. There's so many scripture that speak about trusting God. I will not refer you to anything else, but going back to scripture and then finding joy in your life. Find joy in music, reading, writing, whatever makes you happy. You cook, you clean, you whatever makes you happy. Yeah, please don't forget to share, comment, like, and subscribe. Goodbye.